would like, again, subhanAllah, for me, it's very personal. It's an old comrade of mine, a very dear friend. And we're saying that we're hearing from the students. Again, I would use the word student here loosely in the context of this person we consider him to be from our teachers. And I think at one level there was a sign of his absolute humility that he attended these lessons week in, week out. And it's my old comrade from our days in Damascus together, Sheikh Abdul Karim, who likewise we could actually speak for a long time about him personally and how we all benefited from him back in our days as someone who was one of the older students that took us by the hand and guided us onto the path where many people could have gone astray and wasted their time. But he was, mashallah, someone who really, subhanAllah, impressed upon the faqir and the students of our generation how to, stay focused on this path, what to study, what not to study. And alhamdulillah, again, it's an honor for us that, subhanAllah, he comes in, week out to you all, right? That he comes in, week out to you all to help teach you and impart, mashallah, some of that sanad that he has, inshallah. So without further ado, I'll ask my brother and comrade, Sheikh Abdul Karim, inshallah, to come up and say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. And what can I add to everything which everybody else has said, which will benefit myself and yourselves? First of all, I'd like to say that to have Yasser in our presence every single week or once a month is not enough. It's not enough. It's a subject that when a person tackles Aqidah, it's a very difficult discipline. A very difficult discipline. First and foremost, because everybody out there in society is going to attack you. And me personally, I think he's a comrade that has got honor and dignity to actually stand in front of others and relate the science in a time that we live in. What politicians face, he faces the same. He'll face probably questions, emails, Twitter, probably small things which can upset anybody in a blink of an eye in the night. And I think to myself, it's an emotional time, personally for myself, because I accepted Islam and I took the Shahada and I realized what the difference was between kufr and Jahiliyyah and what the next phase was of the dawn of Islam, which is not an easy thing for any man to sit and think in his mind, how did I come from kufr? Or even not to know that you're in a state of kufr 24/7. And most people in this world, unfortunately, they're in a state of kufr. And we have a duty to resurrect the Aqidah, the correct Aqidah of Islam, which we were taught by our teachers. And unfortunately, we don't convey it. And that's a duty upon all of us, to mankind, to convey it. Because sometimes I read some very simple verses from the Quran and I think to myself, when we think, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een, are we really people that we worship Allah alone? If we worshipped Allah alone, we wouldn't be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls on the harf, on the edge. Because most of us, unfortunately, we do not worship Allah alone. And then do we really seek only His aid and help? And then we think, how do we get to the next verse? Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, a path that we will all traverse, a path that we'll all traverse, a difficult path that we've only just started to embark upon. And the first step of your Aqidah, the most important step, is the foundation. The higher books, in reality, we do not need in this society. There's no place for a higher book in Aqidah apart from your foundation. So this book of Ma'rifah is not a simple book. For someone to become Arif Billah, all it takes is the Shahada to enter you from Kufr into Iman, and to enter into Jannah from a simple statement, a simple two-folded statement. It's a simple thing, but it's the hardest thing for mankind to what? Ponder about. All day people think of probably the concepts which are around our minds every day. What makes up society? Politicians, newspapers, emails, but the focus is lost. When I think of Ustaz Yasser's class or my teacher's class, my instructor's classes, 20 years ago, I had one perspective in Aqidah. But now, every lesson's an important lesson. And I really realize that the lessons that we've taken, they're more than enough. In reality, they're more than enough. It's enough to take people out of kufr, from the streets of this land that you live in. Whether you're a man or a woman, we all have a duty, whether you're young, whether you're old. Some Sahabas were very young individuals, and they imparted this knowledge upon others. And if we think of some simple verses, يَدَخَلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ إيش يعني أفواجا. Afwaja, these are the men. These are the men that you have in front of you. يَلْحِقْنَا بِالصَّالِحِينَ, they will enter you into an abode that the Salihin, they've lived in. And again, we can renovate this path for others in the land that you live in, because you live in a land of deep kufr, to such a point that we as Muslims, now we're falling into a type of jahiliyyah that we need to wake up from. And just we have a few members in our classes here today. We have a celestial realm that's with us today. So it's not about numbers which are on seats. It's not about numbers which are on seats. It's about real men. In Arabic we learn we have dhakar and we have rijal. Many people can be men, but how many people can be rijal? So Ustaz Yasir, to be quite honest, man, it's a subject it takes rajula to deliver the lessons of Aqidah to mankind. It's a subject that when you attach yourself to your teacher, you have to realize when you have pondering questions in your well-being, pondering questions, how will I reach from this point to the Sirat? Not just myself, my family, or your wife, or your children. You should be in great fear. Not just for yourselves, but your families, because your children one day will traverse that path. And your reflection of what you do as mothers or fathers or teachers or comrades in this deen on the street with other people, you're part of that. You can't escape it by being a Muslim. I realize by being a Muslim, I can't escape it. I have to pass this word to others, and you also have to pass this word. You have to keep a connection to your teacher, because your teacher will keep you in a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's the only reason why he comes, is to put you in connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and maybe to relieve himself of some of his sins, like we all relieve ourselves of sins by passing this knowledge. By passing this knowledge. I realized today, I read a verse and I pondered all the way home, through the class, to the class, and I said, what can I teach to my class today? And I said to myself from Surah Al-Jumu'ah, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ وَيَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. This verse itself is a summary of our religion. Of our religion, when we think of it, the totality of our religion, he sent a messenger with a message for mankind from themselves. And this is unique. Yasser has come back to his community where he came from. His Khatm of his book is in the community which he came from. He's minhum. He's from Woking. He's a reality, standing up in the place where he grew, and now he's what? Delivering this to you. And what's he come to do? Yatlu alayh. He's come to what? Recite upon you. Recite upon you, in order that you may what? Connect yourself to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and to do what? Yuzakki. This type of cleansing of the heart, this is the science that cleanses the heart. This is the science. And when you think of it, the authority, the kitab, yu'allimukum, the what? The book. This is what defined me or you or anybody else as a Muslim, and where we're going to reach. The Sam'iyat, the chapter that we all like to listen to, it's a listening chapter, but it's a reality. It's a visual reality. When you study the chapter of the Sam'iyat, you will find to yourself, probably if you're not frightened, you should be. You should be horrified. You should be horrified to think that you enter a lesson, you leave a lesson not being horrified. There is no more horror that you can find in these cinemas than this last chapter. This last chapter, it defined where you're going to be. Are you going to drink from the Hawd? Are you going to be some from the Ummah? Are you going to be people that fall because of a slip, because we couldn't keep with the what? Not even the Fard or the Sunnah, just merely a Shahada, the last thing that can what? Enter you into faith, the last thing that you can say, the kalima before you die, can enter you into what? Islam. Reading Tabarak of a night will get rid of sins in a mass amount, and you think to yourself, this is what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam he came for. He was a Rasul with a message. He came to what? Yatlu alaykum. He came to recite upon you, mesmerize you with his book, to mesmerize you with Aish, his book. And this is what? Yuzaki. This is what cleans. This is what cleans. It cleans you. And what you have to do after this process? You have to now think of how you can deal with this, a form of hikmah to bring people into this religion, a form of hikmah. All of us, we have to think of wise ways to pass this message, wise ways. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's taught us the hikmah, but how many of us practice this hikmah? يَدْخَلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. That's the duty of all of us, all of mankind, to reconnect to who? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and to reconnect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the only way. There is no two ways in this religion. There's only one way. So this path, we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He guides all of us to the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And yani alhamdulillah.